This is Drop In, Drop Out, the weekly podcast where a mix of seven gamers come together to have an open and engaging conversation all about video games. Tonight, I am streaming from the bunker of Renoir. I am a hostage. This is a situation, but we are going to be talking all about Expedition 33. We're going to be spoiling the shit out of it. I'm your host, Patrick, and joining me this week, dropping in fact, I think co-creator of Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Jordan, aka Cognitive Clips. Jordan, how you doing?
Yes, the co-creator officially. I'm doing great. Happy to be here with you guys. Happy to be enjoying a nice Sam Adams cherry wheat. Not sponsored.
Wow.
But please sponsor us.
It could be sponsored.
Yeah.
It could be.
The French love it.
Sure. Is this true?
No idea.
Great. Okay, great. Also dropping in this week on his redemption tour, the Dumpster Boy. Cayman, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm back. Oh, whoa, oh. Let me tell you, it's a little behind the curtain how the sausage is made. I got a video coming out, for Dumpster Dive video dropping tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure I say the word brother so many times in a minute and 15 seconds. I think that I'm immediately banned from social circles after that. So you know what? Not only am I back, full of life.
I love that. That brings a smile to my face and a tear to my eye. Also joining us this week, I haven't podcasted with this man in what feels like a decade. My gamble worth taking, GWT Maury. Maury, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing well, bro. I'm excited to talk about Expedition 33 with the boys because Jordan shouted out what he's drinking. I feel a little bit more comfortable saying that I just poured a little of that Crown Apple in my Diet Coke. Time to get frisky. So it's going to be a good time.
Crown Apple. Is that popular in your neck of the woods?
I don't know if it's popular in my neck of the woods, but I love this shit. Okay, putting you on game right now. Everyone in here, everyone in chat, do me a favor, go try something. What I want you to do is I want you to go get those Angry Orchard ciders from the liquor store. You know what I'm talking about. And what you do is you take one of those ciders, you take about a shot and a half of that Crown Royal Apple, dump the Crown Royal Apple shot and a half, pour Angry Orchard over the top of it. You don't know you're getting drunk. You can't taste the liquor, and you'll be on another planet within 5 minutes. It's a great time.
Wow, double apple.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I don't want to digress here, but Maury, you essentially just made two-step malt liquor. What you do is just go down to the local convenience store, grab yourself a bottle of Mad Dog 4040, and go sit out on the curb with that creepy guy who won't stop yelling at people. And let me tell you, have the same type of evening.
Wow. I'm going to try that, and then you try Angry Bomb, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle. This is going to work. It's going to be great.
Shout out to Gianni, the homie, for subscribing for 4 months. We're over here live on twitch.tv/dropin-dropout-pod. If you're listening later, whether it be on a podcast service, whether it be on YouTube, or if you're just on an island somewhere and someone is playing this out of a loudspeaker and you don't know who I am, this is Drop It, Drop Out. This is a weekly podcast. Each week we talk about whatever we want to talk about in video games. And tonight, in fact, we are here to talk about spoilers, the entire game of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. However, for those of you that haven't beaten it, like I see High Score Weekly in the chat, the homie said, forgot this is spoilers. We won't jump right into spoilers. We'll give you fair warning.
Yeah.
When we go into spoiler territory, we're going to start with what we thought of the game, spoiler free. Overall, maybe we give it a score on our unofficial scale at Drop In, Drop Out. And then eventually we will talk about everything that we want to talk about with no rules other than we can spoil whatever. But to start us off, I figured let's go around the horn. 60 seconds on the clock. High level thoughts. What did we think about Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Jordan, I start with you, my friend.
Me again? Okay, start the timer. I kind of hinted at this when we first got our hands on it, and my thoughts didn't really change as far as this game being everything that I wanted it to be. It delivered on everything that was kind of promised, so to speak, from all the trailers and just the hype surrounding it. It really did it for me on every level. The story, the characters, the music, the locations, the art direction. I mean, all of it was just firing on all cylinders. I mean, obviously every game has its own little quirks here and there, but none of those quirks ever hindered my enjoyment for more than like a minute, maybe. So I think I'm comfortable giving it a straight up 10 out of 10.
Wow, 10 out of 10.
Not to say
Is
it's,
this your first 10 on the show, you think?
I forget what I've said before, what scale I've used before, what games I've talked about and actually scored before. So we'll say yes for the sake of discussion.
A historic first 10 from Cognitive Clips. Dumpster Boy, let's go to you next. High level thoughts. What would you give Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on your own scale or whatever scale you want? We need to fucking figure this out.
Yeah.
Nah.
So here's the thing I'll say. My view of all of this is coming from platinum lens. I'm wearing platinum lensed glasses because I snagged that bad boy. So I've 100%ed this game.
Ugh.
I can tell you every single aspect of this game inside and out. I'm sitting at a solid 9.5 out of 10. This is as close as I think you can possibly get. And the only reason that I dock that 0.5% is a couple things that popped up for me that I just felt were a bit underbaked. I felt for a game about being an expedition, there's no maps. And that is honestly the like a point worth a full 0.5. But the truth is really not just the maps, but there are some things from my perspective of like, hey, it wasn't completely fleshed out, and I think that's a AA games part, not as much of like the game itself. But that being said, there's a reason, we'll talk about this later, that no game should be charged to $80. And this is the perfect example why. So I'm sitting at a 9.5 out of 10 and highly recommend this game without a shadow of a doubt.
Love that. So our batting average is 9.75 out of 10. GWT Mori, where would you land on Expedition 33? High level thoughts, spoiler free still. Let us know what you think.
Dude, this game like took me by storm. Every trailer that I saw for this game did nothing for me. I mean nothing. Like my first thought when I saw it was like, oh yeah, this is the third party deal, just like, you know, Sony does with like a Stellar Blade or like a Rise of the Ronin. This is what Xbox is doing with Sandfall. You know what I mean? Sure. And it's going to be like a 7.5 or an 8 on its best day. I already hate turn-based combat. I'm not touching this game with a 10-foot pole. And then the Metacritic score comes out and I'm like, what the fuck? So I run to the GameStop. I'm like, please give it to me. They didn't even have it at GameStop. I had to go to like another game store like locally to get it. I run home, throw it in, and it takes over my
St. Louis Games. Is that what it's called?
I wish. It's not even that exciting. It's V-Stock. Have you guys ever heard of V-Stock?
Gateway Games.
There you go.
Never heard of it.
Well, I go to V-Stock and I run home and like, dude, this game like took over my fucking life. If I had an hour in the day, I spent that hour playing, you know, Expedition 33. Even if I only had that hour, for that hour, I sat down in my little chair and I put my headphones on and I had a great time. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of my favorite games I've ever played. And I think it's because of the fact that in spite of everything this game is and every reason that I wouldn't like it, I loved it, which is insane. I think that I'm close to Cayman on like the 9.5. The reason why I think I'm sitting at a 9.5 with this game is because I feel that while the story is really great and the way the narrative goes is awesome, I think a lot of the dialogue in between characters was a little lacking for me. Like there was not a lot of quotable moments in this game where I'm like, oh yeah, let me write that down on my notes page. And like for something so driven by the narrative, obviously, I think I wanted a little bit more. But I adore Expedition 33. I was going to buy the like collector's edition of the game, like the version that is without the game that they're releasing right now, putting up for pre-orders. Yeah. But, you know, shout out Donald Trump because, you know, shipping is $50 fucking, which is half of what it costs to get the fucking thing. So, hey guys, Donald Trump made your hobbies more expensive, right? Good fucking vote. So yeah,
not an exaggeration, folks. By the way, Maury is not exaggerating because
No.
I did the same thing. I literally I purchased it. And then after like 45 minutes, I was like, I cannot justify $49 for shipping on a $120 purchase.
Dude.
Like I can't even for this.
Yeah.
You know how much I love it.
That's so stupid,
bro. And that's what
I hate it
felt.
here.
I hate it here. And that's what sucks is like, Jordan, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to pull the fucking trigger and kill Old Yeller or not. All right. And like, just do it, just eat the $50 cost because these cocksuckers wanted to vote for Donald fucking Trump. But
I will say though, remember, Maury.
Yeah.
And everyone who's listening, there is a large book officiel coming out.
I love a good lard book, damn it.
So
I just reach off camera for my fucking gun. Sorry, keep going.
That is what makes it easier for me to cancel it, saying like, yeah, this is going to come with an art book, like the little Expedition Journal is like a mini art book. But I was like, they're gonna have an official one later this year anyway, so I'm just gonna hold out, and whatever that is, I'm like 99% committed to getting it, unless it's like $300 shipping for like a $20 book. But like, yeah, sorry,
sure.
not to take the spotlight away from your discussion. Sorry.
No. I we tapped you in, brother. I mean, that's what it is. But no, I mean, tap me in. I loved it. I mean, this game had no business doing this to me, and my God, it will be my game of the year, and it doesn't matter what else comes out.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't
already your game of the year.
Yeah, and I don't even like. I don't think anything can change that. I don't think Death Stranding 2. I don't think Death Stranding 2 can change that.
On the beach?
On the beach, Princess Beach.
We'll see. Maury.
The only thing for me that has a chance is Metroid Prime 4. But I love this game so much that I'm not even confident that it will.
Wow. Yeah. What about you, Patty? What did you feel?
I am significantly lower than all three of you on this game. I don't like. So I'll go ahead and start. I would say that I land at like an 8 out of 10 on this game. So maybe not significantly lower, but I think I like a lot of what this game does. A lot. I really love a lot of choices this game makes. I mean, I think like style wise, it's like in the Persona 5 category of like this game just fucking drips style, and like the art is so fucking good, and all of the different worlds that you go into, they just all look so fucking pretty. I think so much of the like character design is really cool, and I really like just like the vibe overall. But something you said, Maury, that clicked for me really hard is a lot of the dialogue was like borderline eye rolly for me at times. Yeah. And I think I was texting with Jordan a couple days ago. I saw a lot of the twists coming. I thought they were pretty obvious until they weren't. And like, we'll get to the end of the game, like after Act 2, I basically figured out everything up until the end of Act 2. And then I didn't really figure out much of anything in the actual end of the game, which was nice. But I feel like for a game like this, there were just a few choices. Like in a lot of ways, I felt like we didn't need Verso to be the protagonist after Goose. Let's not spoil things. I almost walked into that one. I feel like they probably got there. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I liked the combat in a lot of ways. I liked a lot of the like superfluous characters. Like I loved the fucking what are they called? Those little weirdos. Those
the
Gestrels.
Gestrels.
The Gestrels. God, I love the Gestrels.
Yeah.
Hold on, Gestrels or Gestral?
I think
it's Gestrels.
Gestrels.
Yeah.
They say it out loud.
We're gonna start saying GIF next.
I mean, come on. But yeah, I think like for me,
in the game. I mean,
this isn't a game of the year contender for me, but I see why it is for so many people. And I can see I'm sure this is an all-timer for at least one person on this panel. And I'll start by saying, I think a big reason why I'm lower than you guys is I did virtually no side content. I basically only did the main story. And I think that from what I've listened to a little spoiler cast here and there, I've listened to some of the conversations in the Discord. And I think I missed out on some really good shit by not doing any side stuff. And like for me right now, I in my GG app where I rank all my games, I have it at number 3. But I look at what's below it and I'm like, none of those were game of the year contenders anyway. Like it's one above Assassin's Creed Shadows. So it's like that wasn't going to be one of my game of the year picks. Yeah. So yeah, I think I land at right now an 8 out of 10, having rolled credits. Because yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's this thing for me, especially like what you were saying, Mario, for a game that is so narrative heavy, where for me, I hit credits. I went and I watched their ending, and I didn't consider turning the game back on. Like I just wasn't. I didn't have a pull to go see any of the other side stuff until I started hearing about the side stuff. Then it's like, okay, maybe I do want to go back and play some things. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Do we want to go ahead and jump into spoiler territory now that we've all given our, I almost spoiled a bunch of shit, but do we want to go ahead and dive right in, gentlemen?
I have one quick thought. I actually tried to drop it in the chat. I guess it was last week, Maury, whenever you were talking about this with Jake on Spotlight Games, which is usually tonight, but we took over. Get over it. That I agree in the sense regarding the dialogue, I should say. Regarding the dialogue, I do agree that it may not be as like quotable. You know, you're not going to get one of those, you know, God of War, like, you know, be better, son, whatever. But at the same time, it was... For me, I felt it was very impactful. Like it wasn't that it was get it tattooed on my arm impactful, but just like the character moments and like the topics of the discussions that they were having and the way that it was handled within the game, I felt were like really, really well done and really powerful. But I do agree if you're going into this expecting like some sort of, you know, like banger of a line like that, you may not find it in this game. But I do think that personally, that the discussions, the dialogue, the topics that they handled were well done. So
yeah, I think some of them for me, like it's not like I didn't think all of it was bad, but I felt especially like when you're in camp and you're having those discussions and you're going person to person and checking in and like progressing that relationship a little more. I felt like a lot of that stuff for me fell pretty flat, but most of the like big picture stuff landed for me. It was more of like the interpersonal things for me, but yeah. Any other final spoiler free thoughts before we dive into being bad?
Ooh. I'm ready to be naughty.
Yeah let's be naughty. Let's just jump right to the end of Act 1. I think that's like the big thing that, so to be clear, spoilers, we're going to spoil any and everything in this game. So if you haven't finished it, or if you haven't at least finished Act 1, or if you have finished Act 1, you can stay. We're going to just stick in Act 1 right now. But with end of Act 1, final warning, we lose the protagonist of the game in Gustav. What do we think about this? Maury, let's start with you.
Holy shit, dude. There were a lot of things that I felt I saw coming. Didn't see this coming. They do such a great job. Number one, like the buy-in of, we have Charlie Cox playing our main character. You're not killing that motherfucker. The fuck? You're not doing that stupid ass shit. So it's the fact that like, dude, his skill tree is like completely built out. You know what I mean? Like it'll take you the whole game to get it all the way leveled up. Like they do such a great job. All the outfits for Gustav, they do such a great job of making you believe that Gustav's here to stay. They really center him at the beginning of the story, right? Everything with like Sophie and like her getting gommaged and all that shit. You're like, oh my God, dude, like surely this is my protagonist. And the way that they do that death with Renoir and like the way that it's so doom and gloom, and you're like, oh my God, this is an unbeatable foe because you just killed Charlie fucking Cox. You just killed Charlie fucking Cox, the guy who plays Daredevil. We're not beating this motherfucker, right? And like, and I don't know, it moved me a lot. It was like my buy-in where I was like, oh my God, I'll see the end of this game. If I'm bored for another 4 hours, fuck it, I'll still see the end. So yeah. I felt like they handled it so well, and it felt like a great twist, and I would have never seen it coming. I loved it. I love it.
Yeah. Jordan, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't quite see it coming. I think that, of course, until they kind of key it in with that sound design with Renoir's cane, like, oh no. And like, go ahead and ready in chat, ready your exclamation points, because my kid was downstairs doing something by himself. I think he was playing Mario or something while I was playing this. So I was like, oh no, it's happening. And then he needed my help with something, like maybe getting the game to work right or like getting him out of something. I was like, so I had to like the scene is still playing, and I'm like trying to listen to my kid and like get downstairs with the laptop so I can like at least let the scene play out and get to a stopping point before I shut it down and stuff. And so like it gets all the way back to camp, and they're CL and Lune are having their little like chat, and then Verso walks up with Gustav's arm and everything. I'm like, hey buddy, yeah, with Mario, sure, yeah. I'm like trying to pay as much attention as I can to this before I because this is obviously a very crazy twist that happens. You don't expect it to. I didn't expect it to happen, but I do. The way that they handled it was so good because I feel like there's. I can't think of a specific example, but I feel like there is a trap sometimes with those kind of twists where you do wonder, how did this happen and nobody came in to stop it? But they address that right away, where Lune and Ciel are like, whoa, something's not right. Something's going on up there. And then the Lamp Master pops back out of the ocean. And she's like, fuck. She's panicking because they can't go help whatever's happening. And it was so good. I did at first kind of roll my eyes a little bit because I was like, don't tell me Verso is just going to get all of Gustav's weapons. Oh, he got all of Gustav. I was like, that feels kind of weird, but I got over that pretty quick. So.
Sure. Dumpster Boy, how about you? How did end of Act 1 land for you?
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like I knew what was going to happen. I feel like it just was like, okay, yeah, we're going to end up losing Gustav. It's going to happen. And then it did, and I was like, it didn't hurt any less, kind of knowing what was going to come.
Sure.
I do feel like it is very interesting, the Lamp Master as an enemy type to be the enemy that they beat. It's correlation on how it comes back later in the game as well. And it's something that, Patrick, you would not have seen.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting callbacks to Gustav's death with things like enemies and music and certain things that come up at certain pivotal points that I feel like plays to the larger narrative, especially when you get into Act 3 and you get the big reveal in Act 3 of what's happening really in the game. It is very interesting. And then just getting to the very last, split endings, not going to spoil those, but when you get to the very end of the game, Gustav the full comeuppance of his role is so important.
Yeah.
But you never hear about him in any sort of context of why.
Sure.
He's just important to Mael. And I think there's a reason why he is. He is a replacement essentially. But I think I will say it's it really is go back and if you play the game, there's certain moments where the same theme songs will come up at certain times. And a lot of then there's also points that you go back to later in the game where you actually get to see certain things with Gustav or where Gustav was. That makes it really way more interesting. And if you didn't go back, if you beat once you beat the area and you come back afterwards, you can get his music number at his death scene. And there's a whole nother
cool.
set of conversations that take place about that when you get back. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
So there's one reason, Patrick, where you need to platinum games more often.
Sure.
Okay. You're missing out on the quality content.
Yeah. So my experience with it, up until Gustav dying, I was kind of not bought in. I was like, I like the combat. I like the story. Fine. And let me edit that a little bit. I didn't really care at the beginning. The prologue didn't really do much for me for whatever reason. Maybe I'm soulless, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you go on the expedition and people start getting fucking murked. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then, but I don't know, there was just something about the way that the story was progressing and the character development and stuff that I was like, I don't know that I'm just it's just something about this isn't clicking for me. And then they kill Gustav and I'm like, let's fucking go. Make a strong fucking choice. Kill your protagonist. Let's see where it goes from here. And then it might have been Jordan. I texted somebody. I was like, I swear to God, if they, not really spoilers for episode 9 of Star Wars, but if they fucking Chewbacca this and Gustav in 7 minutes, I'm gonna break something. And thankfully they didn't. He was fucking dead.
Yeah. Speaking of that, sorry, real quick, Jerica. God rest her soul. She's not here tonight. I texted her about it because I knew that at some point that she had finished Act 1, and she was like, "There's no way. His skill tree was too filled out. There's no way they're gonna leave him dead." But I'd gotten far enough to be like, "LOL." I'm not gonna say anything. But
it was
sorry,
funny.
much luck.
In hindsight, I was like, "Oh, Of course they kill him because he was in none of the press. It was always Ben Starr.
Yeah, dude.
He just one of those things was like, oh yeah, I guess it was kind of right there the whole time, but we never would have known.
And like we could like explain it away because like, oh, he's busy with Daredevil. Born
That's what
Again
I
season
said.
2.
That was what I said. That was my whole explanation. I'm like, you're not killing Charlie Cox. He's not on the press tour because he's fucking Charlie Cox. And this is a new game from a new fucking developer. Duh, he's not showing up. This is his first appearance ever in a game.
He's busy reuniting with Kirsten Ritter as Jessica Jones for season 2.
Sure.
See, yes, but I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you guys like saw it coming. I mean, even Kanan seeing it coming. I don't understand how you saw it coming, brother. I'm sorry. I just don't.
No, you're fine. I think, but yeah, so it worked well for me. But then I was pretty fucking disappointed that they just brought in Verso and made me play as him. Like I grew to like Verso fine, but I was like, I think it would have been such a stronger choice to have you be Mael the rest of the game.
Yes.
And
yep.
Like I felt like that would like I don't know that if it was like we gotta have the fucking strong white man to be the protagonist. I don't know if it was that or what, but it just felt like a weird miss for me of like you've spent the rest of this game so far building up Mael's character and getting us to love her and like as Gustav want to protect her. And it's like, so what a great way to have the player now their agency is through Mael and they get to go fucking defend themselves as Mael. And then they have us be Verso. And by the end of it, I was like, I'm fine with Verso, but so like Jordan, as he was putting together questions for this was, did this change over time as the game went on? For me, it did negatively, where I was like, the more I'm playing and I'm in these camp scenes as Verso, I just feel like it would be so much better as Mael instead of Verso for me.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interject. I guess I kind of see where you're coming from just a little bit, but like Verso's not the main character of this game. Like he's not the protagonist. Mael is 1000% from top to bottom. Once Gustav dies, Mael is ostensibly the protagonist. The only thing that I think we get different is in the camp sequences, Verso is who's interacting, but I feel like Verso interacting with each individual character makes more sense than Mael, who has known them for years, for that to be through her shoes, right? Remember, and I say this to juxtapose it with that, because I see you ticking over there, is that who writes in Gustav's journal? She's still continuing the narration. Every single story beat requires her to be present. Like she is the focal point of the game.
Yeah.
For every story beat, I think outside of it too.
I mean, I guess it's not like 100% to 0, but I feel like it at the very least is 60-40 Verso for the rest of the game of him being the protagonist. Because it's the kind of thing where there's like a couple little beats, but I think it's before you take over as Verso where like you're playing as Mael for a second and you're playing it. Do you play as Lune for a second too in like one of those little transitional moments? No, I thought there was maybe a time.
You get to play as and this is in Act 2. You get to play as Minoko, Ciel, and Luna.
That's right. When the cast splits for a second.
Yeah. Shit, I can't speak French. I'm from the deep south around there.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess just from thinking of it from a systematic standpoint, I feel like they make it pretty clear that you are Verso for the rest of the game. And that anytime, like whether it's in camp or other, like especially toward the very end of Act 3, you're kind of making the decision from Verso's point of view.
Okay.
On what to do.
I think I do agree that like Verso is the lens by which you're looking at the world, but I still think that like you're looking at Mael. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to like express that, but like yes, Verso is like the person that's the eyes that you're looking through. But I do think that Mael is the person that you're looking at because everything ties back to her.
Yeah. And
I have a lot to say about Verso, but I'm gonna take my time getting there because holy shit. I mean, you guys are shitting on my guy. Oh my God, Ben Starr performed his ass off. I have so
Ben Starr's great in this game.
Oh, so good.
Dude
everyone did. Charlie Cox even.
Yes.
For being his first game, holy shit. Like, did really well.
Verso is one of my favorite characters like ever in games. like I don't even like I put him up there with like I don't know why, but this is like the immediate feeling I get. And I don't know why. I don't know why. I have no way to justify this. But I was like, dude, this is like Ezio out of fucking Tori. Like that's how significant he feels to me as a character. I'm like, dude, like I want like 4 more games with Verso as the lead. But I'm sure we're gonna get there. Yeah. But no, but I do think Mael is the main character, but I do agree with Patrick. It is all through the lens of Verso. I do agree on that level. I do.
Well, thanks, Maury. That really means a lot coming
God.
A beautiful moment.
I'm done.
Any other Act 1 thoughts before we go into Act 2 from the group?
I don't think so.
Patrick, I'm ready to talk about Act 2.
I think maybe we should talk about Act 2.
I'm thinking.
So I'm pretty sure we should be talking about Act 2.
Oh God.
Let's talk about it. So end of Act 2 in my spoiler-free, almost spoiler-filled thoughts. Act 2, I was pretty disappointed with how Act 2 ended because I just felt like I saw it coming from a mile away. But I was very relieved that because for a minute there I was like, is the game about to end? I was like, if this game ends and people are saying this is like game of the generation, they're fucking nuts. But what y'all think about Act 2 ending? Jordan, let's start with you.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I was keeping up with friend of the show, Chunklet Amongu, Armando.
Yeah,
he was playing a little bit on stream, and the homie himself, the way that he was talking about it on stream, I mean, he felt like defeating the Paintress was going to be the end of the game. And so I was like, if at all possible, I know he's close. I'm going to try to be there when he hits that moment. And it was great. It was great watching somebody live be like, what?
Yes, I can.
But man, like, so I put in the doc for the episode of like, did you predict any of this happening? And like, I was, Noah, friend of the show, Noah was always ahead of me, in the Discord. So he and I were messaging back and forth, and Coal Mines and I were kind of neck and neck. It felt like for a lot of times. I remember like I looked back, I had messaged Noah. I had beaten Visage, but I hadn't gone to Seren yet. And so I was like, okay, here's where I'm at right now. I think that like, it's not that they stopped aging. It's that they actually did die. Renoir and Verso did die, but like their original versions, the curator was Renoir and Visage was Verso. And I'm pretty proud of how close I was on that, actually.
Yeah.
Because that was actually pretty much true. But the fact that we ended up being in a painted world, never saw that coming.
Yeah.
But I knew because of the way that they released the soundtrack, I knew that there was an Act 3, plus it's just like a standard 3-act structure for a story to being told anyway. So I expected there to be an Act 3, but the way that they led up to it, I thought was so well done. Like that night before, Painted Alicia and Renoir come and like kind of pay a visit to Verso at the camp, and he's talking about like, I saw somebody playing this earlier, so it's pretty fresh in my mind, where he's saying something along the lines of, you're prepared to make this decision for yourself, but are you prepared to make this decision for them? Like, do you even understand what it means to be nothing, to be like oblivion or whatever he says? And I was like, something's up. And then you go down and you're in the monolith and you defeat that version of Renoir, and he's still talking like the same kind of thing of like, they don't know what you're trying to do. You haven't told them, have you? Like kind of thing. And it's like, oh, something's not right. And then that entire flight back from like on SKA's back to Lumiere, I was like, this like pit in my stomach. I was like, what's it going to be? What's going to happen? And then just like, and I was like, oh, it was insane.
To clarify on me, I didn't see coming that they were in a painted world. That part, that once we got the letter from Alicia to Verso, it kind of very much being like, okay, if you're not getting it, this is what we're saying. Yeah. That was when I started being like, oh, okay. Now I was very concerned about where the story was going, but now I'm fucking in.
Yeah.
I did regretfully, I think, pull a muscle rolling my eyes when I learned that the painters are fighting against the writers. I was like, that's okay. That's fucking stupid.
I think it's awesome, but continue.
I really liked that there was a lot more to it than just who is who in this conflict, like with Aline being the paintress and Renoir and all that stuff. So, but Dumpster Boy, how about you? What were your thoughts at the end of Act 2? Did you see anything coming? Generally, kind of what was the vibe for you?
So I had some inklings of like where the story was heading. More specifically, that Mael was Alice. That like there was no question about that. It was just how did that relate to it? So a lot of this big reveal that comes at the end of Act 2 caught me off guard, where I was like, oh shit, the painted world and Verso and Renoir are painted versions of Alice's family members. And there's other things, we also, I think there was moments where Verso and SK talk a lot about Clair and who's Clair, and they never, and even as early as back as before, I think Verso even becomes part of it. SK tells Giel at a certain point of like, oh, and Francois, he misses his Clair, just does his like fucking shit, which by the way, we haven't talked about Francois. Francois is one of the, okay, so Francois is a boss at the very end of Endless Tower. It's like a side thing that you can do. Like you have to be like way high level to complete it. Like
I don't think I know who Francois is.
you know who Francois is because he's the friend of SKA.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Francois pops up multiple times. He also pops up again. There's 3 boss fights you get against Francois. All of them are fucking hysterical and played for last. I just wanted to mention that Francois is not getting any love tonight. That's a goddamn shame. So there were moments where I was like, okay, definitely there's a family here, and obviously something about Mael. I think Mael is the real version of something. Like one half of a coin, something like that. So it was a little lost. I think the problem, this is where that 0.5 that I trim off, and like where I might teeter later, the longer I sit on it, of going to just like dropping to a 9, is the crux of the story being the painters versus the writers. And the reason I say that is that we just don't learn anything about who the writers are, like at all. And more so to the point that the story becomes very convoluted. Where I started to struggle, even as someone who I got Sid to pull the time for me. In-game time, 68 hours. Okay. But 68 hours into this game. And I feel like I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I don't necessarily need a lot of hand-holding either. And I didn't feel like we were getting a lot of like, it just was a bit of a struggle of like trying to figure out like, okay, Verso dies. And that's who, she's replaced and created, or all of these characters are created. So I'm thinking like, oh, so Mael has created this world. No. This world is Verso's world. Then I'm like, okay, this is Verso's world. But if Verso dies because the writers, well, who are the writers? We're never going to address it. Which makes me think like maybe we'll get a part 2. And we'll get to it when we get to Act 3. We will not be getting a part 2.
Sure.
There's no world in which we get a part 2.
No, I don't think
so. This is where I feel like, we run into that AA. We just don't have enough to be able to do more than we're doing. And that's fine. I think maybe I just wish we just had a little bit more, just maybe a little world building outside, and maybe we can talk more about what I wish maybe we got a little bit more of in Act 3. Definitely, I feel like could be good to talk there about that. But ultimately, though, at this point in the game, I'm fucking sold, and I am ready for Act 3 to figure out what the fuck's happening. So at this point, these are minor gripes, honestly. They sound large.
Sure.
They're very small complaints compared to how excited I was to figure out, like, what the shit is happening and why is our face burned off. Like, that moment,
Yeah, I guess for me, it was like them just saying, like, writers versus painters, writers set a fire, Verso dies in the fire. That kicks off this whole cycle of grief. Like that was enough for me. But I can see where you're coming from, though, of like wanting to know more. Because like the more they can tell me, the more I'm going to listen.
Right. But. And there's also, I think, something, and then I want to hear Maury's thoughts. I think there's just something like when you just make a profession become a faction, of like the writers are now the capital W writers. I'm like, okay, I need a little more than that. I need a little bit more than just there's writers and painters. Like I understand now that painters can paint a whole fucking world and make a simulation in a canvas, but like what why what are they doing this because the writers can do something similar or different? Or there was just like it just opened up too many questions that we never get answers to for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maury, how about you? What was your vibe at the end of Act 2?
Yeah, I think I saw from a distance that like, the paintress can't be the end, and that like the paintress can't like be all terrible. Like she can't be all bad, because there's that original line at the beginning that I think a lot of people missed out on, because I missed out on it before talking to my friend Alyssa, who was playing the game as well. And that's where Sophie talks about how she thinks that the paintress is sad, that there's something going on with the paintress that they don't fully understand. Right.
I remember that.
And that's what's so weird is I heard that line and it went one in one ear out the other. But as I got closer to the paintress, me and Alyssa were talking, and she's like, it's so interesting that there's that line about the paintress. And I'm like, whoa. And then I get to the paintress and I'm like, oh shit, like maybe the paintress isn't the ultimate villain of this world.
It was very much like Chekhov's line about the paintress being sad. It was like, okay, well then this must be a very big clue. I had the same thought.
Right. Having already started New Game Plus, I think that the line is something. She says, I wonder if she's stuck in the same cycle we are.
Yes, that was it. That was the line. Yes. Yeah. And like, bro, like, holy shit. It totally makes sense when you get there. You're like, oh, I understand now. I'll be honest. This is where the story like does kind of start to get really rough for me. I don't know what's going on. I got to be honest. It wasn't until all of you started talking about the writers and the painters that I even remembered what that was. Like it's just so poorly fucking explained. Like the outside world of the painting, the DeSandre family and everything that they have going on, that's like a fever dream to me. I don't know what the fuck's happening. I never even knew how Verso died. I thought it was just like the house caught on fire. Oh, Verso's dead. I didn't even know that the writers did that shit until now. So like, and mind you, again, I'm not an idiot. Like I pay attention. But like so much of that shit, I think what's hard is that it feels like there's like a bottleneck at the end of Act 2, and it's like you just get like a fucking dump truck load of information about the story dumped on you all at once, and you're like, and you can't keep it.
And there's a kaiju battle with the paintress and Serene, and it's like we're getting just reveal after reveal. And I'm like, I can't keep up.
Bro, and that's the thing. It's like, and at some point, I think my own brain was just like shutting off to protect me, because it's like, you know what I mean? Like, the fuck are we doing? You know, they dropped 14 fucking points of the story on you in 5 minutes. So I think my brain just shut it off.
That's so myself. Fucking funny.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, yeah. But like, it was cool. It was a good ending to the act too. I don't know. Like, and I like that they add that complication of like, no, the paintress is stuck in something as well, and she's not like this like generic, villain or whatever. There's more to her. But this is where the story like starts to fall apart for me, and I start to like figure more of it out as we get into Act 3.
Sure.
But clearly I didn't figure all of it out. So
here's a question for you guys. So at this point, I think it's at this point, maybe not at this point, sometime around this point, we learn about. Okay, so there's a point that I'm trying to make, Jordan. Verso's age, with him being the first expedition, which, I guess we can put together the pieces as to why he was the first expedition, with him being the son of the paintress, blah, blah, blah. As someone who didn't do very much extra content, do we explore his age at all more? Like, are there any logs from other expeditions where they like mention Verso, or is there anything there? Okay, I figured there must be, because like that's just too big of a story beat to just like never come up again, other than when they first reveal it. So can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like, what did I miss?
So again, I've already started New Game Plus. I actually wrapped up Act 1 again yesterday. So there's a journal in Esquia's cave as you're exiting, and what they're talking about is, it's like kind of funny, because they're kind of funny. That's how we met, guys. They're talking about how they ate these mushrooms in Esquia's cave and they're all dying because of it. And he says something like, he mentions something about Esquia's friend here, Esquia not mentioning that his friend was immortal when he ate it. And I just kind of assumed that it was Francois, but it must have been Verso, because I'm pretty sure that was, if I'm remembering the numbers right, that was one of the expeditions that Verso mentions he traveled with, and so they're like, yeah, you should have just mentioned that your friend was immortal because he's fine over here. And then there is also a it's actually a really sad one, or there's a couple of really sad ones where one of the earlier ones he's traveling with mentions seeing him die, like get blown in half, but then he's fine the next day. Yeah, Julie. And he
You want to finish this? Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, you're good. But yeah, so that one's from Julie. She's talking about like we have to capture this guy, find out who he is because he must be a Nevron or something. Because I saw him die, and he's just trying to act like he just got glanced by that blast. No, I saw his body or whatever. And then you find out that like Verso basically kills her because he sees no other choice but to like protect himself and like the mission. Yeah. And like they were SDA mentions at one point. I can't remember exactly when, but he's like, "You were thinking of Julie, weren't you?" And he's like,
"Stop."
That's such a good Julie. SKA impression.
But Cayman, you might remember something more about that than I do.
Yeah, so you're right. So he kills at the time he's trying to keep the painting going because the whole reason we have the Gamage in the first place is that all of the essence of these characters are fueling the paintress and her ability to prevent Renoir from destroying the canvas entirely. And so he kills Julie because she basically, you find another journal later, I think it's the Expedition Zero journal. It explains it. And essentially what happened is, in a lot of this, you'll get another one from the Clair. You find this out from Clair, her final boss that you can't beat. And I don't think you can fight her until after you beat the game and go back. But you find out that like Clair was dating this guy named Simon, and she was like, "Look, enough's enough. We got to get out of this canvas. We're wasting too much time here not fighting the riders." And so she creates the Nevrons to kill the Expeditioner so that they can't Gamage. So like that's the whole purpose, is to try to kill them so that they can essentially wipe it out. And like that way Renoir can destroy the canvas so Aline can get out so that they can fight back to like get vengeance for Verso. That's what I've gathered through like getting every single journal. And let me tell you, there's one journal that you can pick up that's the funniest fucking one. And it's the farthest, I think it's the farthest into the world you can get. And it's Expedition, I want to think it's like 54 maybe. And it's like, wow, when you pick it up, they're like, oh, Verso's like, oh, this is the weirdest expedition that's happened. And it pulls up, and it's basically this guy being like, "And we do things in the nude."
Yes, yes.
What? And you're like, the whole fact, like the strongest, best expedition were just a bunch of nude,
That's awesome.
Bulked out dudes.
Like, Cayman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that one of these nude dudes, like busted through the chroma veil, like the chroma barrier in front of the paintress, just like naked.
Yeah, that's
how strong he was.
Yeah, they all get through like that, but it's really cool if you and like to kind of ties it back in of all this stuff is like why we're in this position in the first place. I don't know if you guys remember in Act 2, right after you get out of the Forgotten Battlefield, they make a comment about someone where they're like, "Yeah, so there was a guy who killed an Axon, and we got to go kill 2 of them, and we're barely gonna pull this off." And this one dude just straight up murdered one without like even flinching. And you're like, we hope we don't fight that guy. He's like, yeah, I don't know whatever happened to that dude. And then they just don't mention it again. Comes back way later in the game, and you're not going to be prepared for it when you get to that point. But the whole crux of it is like, Clair essentially is like, you're too powerful. You're going to keep these people alive. Like you were going to make this live on forever. So essentially she like goes out of her way to basically be like, we're just going to have to spoil you and hide you away because we've gone too far. So like even these like minute interactions with these fake characters that these real world people are having with are becoming too real for them, which causes, I think, even more pain and heartache as the game goes on. You just never, unless you're reading all these journals and like fighting all these optional bosses and going to these special places, you're going to miss all of it.
Gotcha. What you got, Jordan?
Yeah. Some of this is what I had to piece together from conversations with other people. I didn't catch it all like on like first glance either. So essentially the Gomage is like it's Renoir. He's trying to wipe out all of her creations, and she's just powerful enough to hold him back to where he can only destroy the ones that are the oldest. But whenever they do that, that returns chroma to him, basically. Like chroma is like the power that they use to keep the canvas alive and blah blah blah. So what Clair does is with the Nevrons, they mentioned this a couple of times early in the game, but you just don't know what it means yet. That like the chroma stays in their body. So when the Nevrons kill somebody, their chroma stays there and doesn't go back to either Eileen or Renoir for them to continue their little like stalemate at the monolith. So that's why Clair does that, is that like the way that the Nevrons kill doesn't Gomage them, and therefore neither of her parents can use that power of their deaths to like fuel their own power.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Another question, and I think I maybe know part of it based on what y'all have been talking about, because I never really saw Clair outside of that little bit that you get of like the real world. So Mael, obviously like the representation of Alicia. Is Gustav supposed to be Verso or no? Okay, no. And then is Sophie Clair, or am I also wrong there?
No.
Got it. Okay, because those
Gustav,
two,
Sophie, like 99% of basically everyone in Lumiere except for Mael is just
totally made up.
an after effect of the painting existing.
Got it. Okay, because the character model and maybe if I look at them side by side, maybe they don't look anything alike. But I felt like the Sophie character model and the Clair character model looked really similar, so I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be on purpose or if I'm just an idiot.
I think like they're both white brunettes, so I'll give you that. No.
All right,
they look more different once you see them side by side.
Okay.
I'll posit my theory is that Mael has Gustav and Sophie as surrogate Verso and Claire's, right? So like when Verso dies, obviously like when you see her in the real world, she's like a stunted youth in the real world who can't speak and is malformed, right? And so it feels like when she gets back into this world, she's like, I have this world in which I can have a brother, I can have a sister, but I can't tell myself about Verso and I can't tell myself about Clair because I am so far removed mentally. I've been lost in the painting for too long. So like that's her whole shtick, is that she's so far like lost in it that like when she sees Verso, it takes her having the moment where like everything comes to a close and she gets like jolted back into reality. That like she essentially booted from the canvas. That she realizes all of these things, like they are fake versions of her family, like the closest thing she has of family.
Yeah, it's because whenever like so in that little like it's not, I guess you can call it flash sideways #lost, where you end of Act 2 and you're walking around as Alicia and Claire's like, come here, little girl, I need to go fight some riders, get in this painting, little girl. She tries to warn her to like move quickly or else the chroma in the painting is going to overwhelm her. And that's exactly what happens. And so like Alicia from the real world enters in the canvas again and the chroma overpowers her and she's literally reborn as Mael. And that's why she doesn't remember anything until that big Gomage, she gets booted. And then when she comes back in, she has all her memories now from the real world and the painted world.
God, I'd love to be Gomage. Even remember some things, you know what I'm saying?
God damn.
Let's actually, before we go into Act 3, one other thing I want to say publicly is I'm just kind of generally tired of surprise, we're related as a twist. I just feel like I'm specifically referring to Verso with Renoir and Aline, and I guess Mael too. Alicia, you know what I mean? But it's just like, is anybody else with me on that? Of like, there can be other story beats than surprise you're related.
Do you just mean like in general?
Just in general.
Or do you mean
like?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
I hear you. I think it works well for this game, but yeah.
I think so, but I don't think there's anything more fucked up than my family's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, I think
sure.
That feels so like universal that like, oh yeah, like your dad's a piece of shit and like your mom is like trying to control everything and like in the process has caused like millennia of grief. Like, you know what I mean? That feels like very universal. I don't know. But I do agree that it is often overused.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Any other final thoughts on Act 2 before we go to Act 3?
Patrick, real quick. At the point where we're at, sorry, Mario, just one quick thing.
Yeah.
Do we want to jump straight to the ending choices just because of how long we've been going, or do we want to?
I could fuck with that.
Okay. Maury, what do you want to say though, real quick?
I was just going to quickly say something because obviously this is a spoiler cast. We're here to talk about the narrative, but I just want to say the amount of customization that I was able to do with like my characters in this game, like the layers down. There's so many Pictos, bro. Like there's like hundreds of them, but the way that you can mix and match them, bro, like my Verso build by the end of the game, I don't even know if it was like cracked or good, but it was like I felt like a boss. Like every single turn I had the duelist sword with a double base attack Pictos that heals me and regenerates my health. So every fucking turn I run up, slash, get all my health back, also get 4 more AP, but I already start the turn with 3. So now I'm up to like 8 or 9. So I'm dropping a fucking nuke on the boss every fucking turn.
I love it so much.
Dude, like I loved the way that this game just let you fuck with it. Like
Yeah.
They didn't try to like underpower you or like make everything challenging. Like if you found the right things, and even if it wasn't that I was overpowered, even if it's just that I felt overpowered, you delivered on that power fantasy so fucking well.
I agree.
Like I loved the way it felt. I just had to say that because I know we're here for narrative, but I had to say something. So
yeah, no, for sure.
Well said.
Let's quickly go around the horn and say which ending you chose to see if like one of us did one and the other 3 did the other thing. I'll start. I did the Verso ending.
Oh,
Jordan,
good man.
Mael.
Cayman.
Mael.
Verso.
My fucking dog. So we're split down the middle. Cayman, do you want to talk to me a little bit about Mael's ending and why you chose that?
Yeah, so at the end of the game, after you beat the final version of Renoir, the final Renoir, which is cool fucking boss fight, by the way.
So good.
Honestly, all of the boss fights are fucking wild in this game. Essentially, if you choose Verso, you get positive with the question of like, do you side with Verso and kill everyone in the canvas? Everyone dies. No one gets their family revived. Everything is gone, so that they can. All these characters who've been around forever can finally have some peace, and the family can move on, presumably to continue another more physical fight in the real world. You can choose that. That's the Verso. The Mael ending is that you choose. What is it? You choose to preserve everyone in the canvas. And in doing so, you end up getting corrupted and becoming essentially the same version of both of your parents, this like rotted out, painted version who's so lost that there's no coming back from this canvas at this point. I chose that option. I
feel like it wasn't that clear at the beginning, though, when you're making the choice that you're going to.
No, and the truth is, yeah, because you just choose one or the other. You don't know what you're going to get until afterwards. I ended up watching the Verso ending just to see what that looked like. And the truth is, I feel like a lot of times when you have games or you have movies or whatever, where it's like, pick one ending, but none of them are going to be great. I feel like Baldur's Gate did a lot of that. This is one of the first times where I legitimately was like, there's literally no right answer.
Yeah.
There's no you've given agency and life to these characters, and you are now taking in like God, and like you are God essentially, and you can just wipe them off the map to move on, presumably their life. Which in the lore of the game, you are essentially going to erase this fantasy world where everything you can control can go the way you want it to go, and you can help all these people or whatever, being corrupted, but you're going back to a real world in which you're going to die. Presumably, because the painters are so weak against the writers, they're just getting killed off in mass. So it's like you're going back to a world in which these people are going to suffer probably worse fates than letting them die in a canvas. So I went with that route. And then you're also like, well, actually, this is fucking miserable because nothing here is real. It is all fake. It's all imaginary. And I don't like this. So I went with that option because, well, fuck it. Nothing matters anymore.
Sure.
It all sucks.
Yeah, Maury, go next, and then we'll go to Jordan.
I love that Cayman said there's no good choice because you're 2 options, and you could argue that one of these is better than the other. artificial genocide or permanent generational trauma. But those are your two fucking options. Like this fucking game, these psychopaths. But like, dude,
very, very French of them to do that.
very French. I chose Verso. And the reason why I chose Verso is because Verso is fucking tortured in this game. Like everything about his existence is terrible. When you finally do discover that this isn't Verso, this is a reflection of Verso. It's a shadow of Verso. It's not even him. And that he's aware of that. I want you to imagine how fucked up that is. Let me drop a bomb on you real quick, Patrick. You're not the real Patrick, and you haven't been for 100 years, and you've known for 100 years that you're not the real fucking Patrick, and that you're literally here to alleviate the grief of all the people that loved you. That's the only purpose of your existence. That's it.
That's a huge relief to me.
Sorry, I want to chime in. I want to chime in. Go ahead, because I feel like this is really important. Just to back up Maury's point, just one more step. The end scene is Verso coming on stage and performing a piano recital while they're all in the audience, and this motherfucker is just straight up, like with a smile on his face, with just tears pouring down his cheeks.
Bro,
I didn't see tears.
Bro,
he didn't look happy, but I didn't see tears. I'll watch it again.
There are tears that come down his face.
It's that level of suffering, but it's also like, dude, the moment that I decided was when he's walking up to the little boy and he's like, you don't have to paint anymore. It's like, fuck, dude. Like this kid has just been painting and painting and painting. And it's not because he wants to anymore. It's not even him. It's a falsified artificial version of him because his family cannot move the fuck on. And like, I get it, dude. Mael might have a terrible life on the outside because she's not able to talk, but that doesn't mean that you can't find joy there. That doesn't mean that you can't find peace there. That doesn't mean that there's not something beyond your grief. You just haven't tried hard enough to explore what might be beyond it because you went and hid in this fucking painting. And that's weak to me. Sorry, I'm going to therapy again on Thursday, so I'm going to talk like a fucking therapist. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You have got to face your fucking shit. And it might be easier to put on a VR headset in 30 years where we can do everything in real time. We can fuck and eat and do whatever else, but that's not real fucking life. It's just not. And I think that this game like begs that question of like, are you going to face the real shit if it's hard, or are you not? Neither option is great. Again, artificial genocide or infinite generational trauma. But like, those are your two options. Those are Mael's two options. Your real life does suck. Your real life is hard. You need to go figure out how to find joy and move on from like the grief, or you can sit here and pretend for another 100,000 whatever years. And so I just went with Verso. I was tired of seeing Verso suffer. He has that great line where he says, the reason all this happens is because we can't get out of the cycle of your family's grief. Mm-hmm. That's why all this is happening. That's why there's gamaging. That's why people are dying. That's why we're making fake fucking people who have to pretend as though they were this real thing in the real world. It's because you can't move the fuck on. You can't fucking grieve. We're all stuck here because you won't grieve. So like, dude, I'm sorry, Mael. Get your ass out the fucking painting. Go see a fucking therapist and hold your brother's fucking funeral service. We're going to figure it the fuck out together though. So sorry. Anyway. That was mine.
No, don't apologize. No, that was great. Jordan, so you went with Mael. Tell me why. Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm like one of 5 people on the internet who chose Mael and stands by choosing Mael.
Huh.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why.
That is surprising to me.
Yeah, because I think we have to take our real world, like this discussion, like where we are, not like the metaphorical, like in-game real world, but like this world right here. We need to throw our notions of what's real out the window, because the people of Lumiere had actual lives. It wasn't that every single person in there had been painted individually by Aline at some point or whatever. Like Mael was born to parents, Gustav and Sophie and like Lune, CL. All these people had parents, went to school, fell in love or didn't fall in love, broke hearts, whatever. They had actual lives. And the fact that like for lack of a better word, magic exists in this world, and the painter's magic ability is to actually create life within these canvases. And so from that standpoint, like, yeah, technically artificial genocide. I know you're just like using that for kicks because it's a great line. But like, these are living beings that are within this painting. Even when, Lune and CL get brought back by like the repowered Mael / Alicia when she comes back into the painting, like they're aware that this is what their life is, but they still want to live it. Like Lune talks at the campsite about being excited for Mael to come like paint her something within this painting of what the outside world looks like, just so she can experience it, because like she has a scientific mind and she's so curious about the world, no matter what that world is, or like multiple worlds are, she wants to learn about it. Like there are all these things that like and there's kids that are existing in Lumiere right now, like Gustav's apprentices and stuff. Like, so the fact that like kids are being born and these people are falling in love and all this, like they are living beings within this world. And so that was a big point for me of wanting to keep it alive, aside from just like falling in love with the characters themselves. But one of the big things, I know, Patrick, you didn't get to this, but the Reacher. So like we find out, through the, as you're playing through the game, like the Axons are Renoir's creations that are based on like metaphorical ideals for his own children. So Visage was Verso, and Siren was Clea, and Reacher was Mael or Alicia, because he wanted her to be able to just like reach for the stars or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so you get up there, you climb this like giant scaffolding tower thing up this mountain, and it's like this beautiful one-on-one duel. It's a duel between Mael and Painted Alicia, the one we always see in the world, like with the mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, side point before I get to that, I think it's in Act 3 during one of the campsite scenes where Mael is like, wait, if Aileen painted her, then like she starts to kind of ask, like, why did she still paint her scarred and like with her mask and all this stuff? And Verso's kind of like, when you go meet her, don't bring it up, kind of thing. Like he kind of shuts that discussion down. And so like the implication being that like she's still kind of bearing these scars, like even in this painted world, like she's still being made to bear these scars of whether it's her fault that the writers found where they live and set the fire. I can't remember exactly if they actually addressed like all of that, but like even in this painted world, like this version of herself is not whole, so to speak.
So to answer that question, Jordan,
Yes,
Verso runs back into the fire to save her. She
Gotcha.
ends up getting burned. Verso dies, but she ends up living.
Gotcha.
Just
Thank you.
disfigured.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I love a white savior.
Yeah. And so Alicia does that like fancy thing where she can like flicks her wrist and everybody is frozen except for herself and Mael, and they have their little duel, and she asks her like, just send me out of the canvas. Like, so I can't remember if she like verbalizes it or just like they intuit because they're the same person kind of thing. And so she does it, but Verso gets upset because he's like, you didn't talk to me about this, you didn't like let me say goodbye, like what the hell kind of thing. And she's like listen, you're right, I should have at least said something to you first, but everyone is making these decisions for her and not even giving her a chance to make her own decisions and have her own life. And so if she wanted to be out of the canvas, that's not for me to decide. That's not for you to decide. That's her own choice. And so then it comes up again. She's begging Verso at the end, like, my life out there is not a full life anymore. After this fire, like I'm disfigured. I can't even speak. Like, I don't want that life. Like, I want to just be in here. Like, even if it's not the right choice to you, it's still my choice to make. And I think that they probably had an argument about him, as Renoir had told him before early in the game, like you're making these decisions for these people. So I didn't really sit well with the idea of him still making that decision for her again and making that decision for everyone else again. And of course, at the end of the day, no matter which side you pick, one sibling is being forced to live a life / live in a world that they don't want to be in.
Sure.
There's no avoiding that. There's only two choices unless there's DLC. And so in that sense, again, like there's no real great answer either way, but at least with this one, even if she ends up wilting away in the real world, that's still a choice she got to make for herself after so much has been taken away from her. And the world that is real and living and breathing in whichever way that you can possibly define living, breathing worlds when magic exists still gets to continue on as well. So.
I do want to point out one quick thing, Patrick, specifically for you, because you didn't get to witness this, but at the end of that specific sequence, when you go back to camp after you're done and Alicia is dead. She's passed on. You go and sit down and you talk to Mael. Verso and Mael sit down, and you have the ability to answer the question because she asked him, like,
I forgot. Yes,
did
yes.
you, in the moment, could you have saved Gustav? But could you have saved him, or did you let him die? And you are allowed to answer it as a binary, yes, I could have saved him, or lie and say no. And you have to.
It tells you which one's the lie.
Yeah,
and
then once you're done, it pops up and it gives you like the and CL and Verso spend a steamy night together, forging bond, whatever. But for theirs, it's like Verso and Mael shared a moment of bonding together over truth. I don't know what the lie says, but essentially that they're like, but yeah, so you can just it's these are things you miss, Patrick, when you don't platinum games anymore.
And so again, like, he's he made that choice for them as well. Like he admits in that moment, like, again, you have the option of, it tells you that it's the truth. He could have stepped in and stopped Renoir from killing Gustav, but he didn't, because I think he actually explains it as being like, if he survived, I didn't want him to stand in the way of you doing what I needed you to do, because again, he's manipulating everybody without telling them the full truth to do what he wants them to do.
Sure. I think the main reason I chose the Verso ending, one thing that I think none of us have mentioned in the choice is they make it very clear that by going the Verso route, it's not that Alicia now has to live in that world forever. It's very clear that, like, there can be more canvases, there can be more worlds, like there can be more of this outside. It's just this one has to stop, essentially. And I feel like for me, even though it is technically Alicia saying, like, I want to live in this world because like the minds have come together or whatever. It just, I don't know, there was something about it that felt very like disability erasure to me, of like, I felt like from what she was saying was, I would rather live in a fake world and eventually, as the character, like, lose my mind than be disabled. Like, and I was like, that's pretty fucked up, actually.
Bro. Okay, wow, this is so interesting, because this is my whole mindset, is that, like, dude, for you to think that because you can't speak, you can't have a full life?
Yeah.
Holy shit, brother.
For me,
sign language, if you don't throw shit up,
I know,
whatever that
for
shit
me,
looks like,
as someone who has lived with a disability since I was 13, I was like, that's pretty fucked up, I think.
Like, as someone who's lived with a disability for less than a tenth of the amount of Patrick's lifespan, let me tell you, I agree 100%. Just fucking put a gun to my head. Get a cow.
Somebody go Maj this man. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like for me, it was like what you were saying, Maury, of it felt like just delaying the inevitable of dealing with grief and that kind of thing. Of, even though I agree with you, Jordan, of like, it is kind of fucked up that Verso is the one making the choice and taking away the agency. But I think ultimately, whether this makes me good or bad, I think it's the right choice, because it's this, like, not confronting your actual problems and working through them and growing from them and figuring out a life forward. It's just pretending that none of that exists, and I'm just going to live in this fantasy world with people that all feel very real, and they get to have their full real lives. But that last moment of the Mael ending, where, like, her face starts to deteriorate and she starts to lose that, whatever that is suggesting. It's like, okay, well, she is now going to be losing something by being in this world too, whereas everyone else. So I don't know. For me, that was kind of where I drew the line, and it felt wrong to let that world continue, since it was all technically not real.
It also feels, if I'm not mistaken, like when you play out the Verso ending or watch the Verso ending, there's actual closure. Like there's a finish to something. You know what I mean? Like it's not only that they're saying goodbye to Verso, who's now dead and gone, but it's also that you get to say goodbye to these people that maybe were very real to Mael, but are not real in this world, because we're waving goodbye to them and they're disappearing off into the fucking sky. So it's like, that to me feels like such a healthier, that's the word. That feels like a healthier ending than the Mael ending.
And when I afterward watching the Mael ending too, I felt like I think it's a good ending from like a writing standpoint. I think it's an interesting ending.
Yeah.
But I felt like for me, it was very like I think it was Coal Mines in our Discord was like I chose the Mael ending, but after watching the Versa one, I wish I had chosen the Versa one. So I was glad from my perspective when watching the Mael one. I'm like I think I chose the right one for me.
Yeah. But really though, but do you really want to side with Coal Mines on anything?
In this case, I sure do.
Yeah. Oh, there's something else too that like again, not that anything that you all have said was wrong, but that a caveat with her wanting to stay within the canvas is that everyone like it felt like Verso was kind of projecting the rest of the family's burdens onto her in that moment, because when she talks about living within the canvas, I don't see that as like I can't let you go, so I have to stay. It's I want to stay, but by extension, I can't let you go. Kind of, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like she had to let him stay because it's his soul that's within the canvas, and that's what's keeping it going. Was his like that fragment, that little boy that you see all throughout the entire game.
Yeah,
that's been him the whole time.
That's Versa.
And so like it felt less like I can't let you go, brother. It was more like I've lived both lives, and this is the one that I want to be in. But for me to be able to do this, I can't let you destroy everything either. And so like she kind of tries to offer them, again, I'm not saying that this was a perfect way to do it. She offers them that like olive branch of like, I'll let you grow old. Like, because everybody else had been keeping him at that same, 30-ish age of like when he had died in the fire. Like that's why he doesn't age. And that's why he was old at the recital at the end was like, she's trying to offer him a little bit of a condolence by letting him at least grow old, even if he has to stay in here. But of course he doesn't want it. Ben Starr begging for God. He's just like, I don't want this life. I don't want this life. Yeah. That was pretty haunting. But yeah. And it's, what you said about the disability erasure thing is definitely an interesting angle. And like, you can find, I don't know if, I doubt Patrick found it. Maury, you may have, I'm sure Cayman did. There is, when you unlock enough rooms or you find like entrances into the manor throughout the world or whatever, one of them is Eileen's like journal. And I think it says like unknown woman because it's not trying to spoil everything, but like her journal is basically talking about how she can't stand to even look at Alicia anymore because it just reminds her of the fire, reminds her of losing Verso. And which kind of plays into why she like paints her into the fucking painting with the burn scars and a mask. Like she wants her to know that like this sucks, you suck, and I want you to cover it up too. And so it's like we may be dooming her to a reality where she's neglected and abused anyway. So it's like I feel like there's more layers to it. Like maybe letting the canvas die would have kind of healed some of that trauma as well. Like I don't think that there's really traditional villains in this game, which I do appreciate actually. There's antagonists, but there's not true villains. Like everyone is just like reacting from this place of overwhelming grief that they don't quite know how to handle, and they're making questionable choices throughout the entire game because of it. But yeah, there's also that question of like, if there was a way that you could be rid of your disability, would you? You don't have to answer that question. It's just like a thought experiment kind of thing. Like,
sure.
If there was some way for me to like, if there was some way for me to live without, depression and anxiety and taking these meds every day, like, I don't know.
But I also think, and not to like take, I don't know, it's dangerous territory to be like, I know better than someone else, but like, it's also worth noting that this character is very young. Like this character does not have very much life experience. I'm sure if I was her age with what I had gone through and not burns and shit, but like what I was diagnosed with in the life that I was living, I probably would have been like, put me in the fake world too, because I was fucking 17 and depressed. And, so it's like, it's the kind of thing where from my standpoint, as someone who has lived through that, learned to adapt and all these things, and like have a pretty, I think, good life other than everything being destroyed a month ago, is like it feels naive to me.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that I think is where part of that comes to. But ultimately, I think the binary choice is very interesting, and I agree with I thinking of like a Mass Effect 3 as an example, where it's the 3 choices, but it's like I feel like very often when they give you choices, either all of them fucking suck, or there's the one that's like really clearly the better choice. And I feel like they did a good job of having both. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we get a sequel and it's from the fucking writer's perspective, and then that there's also fucking drawers and there's fucking whatever the fuck. I could see it being like maybe it is the Mael ending that's canon and not the Versa one. I would expect that the Versa one is probably canon, but it's good on them. I think I tip my cap to them.
What I will draw a line at though, this has been a fantastic discussion. What I draw the line at is something that I've seen on the internet, not from this discussion, where people keep projecting all this like heinous shit onto Mael, like for the ending. Like, oh, everyone's afraid of her. She's controlling Verso. She's controlling. I'm like, what are you talking about? At what point did this game give you any indication that she was doing any of that? Like,
I've not seen these descriptions.
The whole discordant note from the piano and like that was showing that like, I think I can't remember if there's an actual line that she speaks or that she just like hints at, but like telling Verso, like, no, I don't have to be in here all the time, but I don't want it to go away. Like, I want to be able to come into this world whenever I want to, because I'm like, I feel more whole. I love these people that I've come to know, whatever. And so like, to me, that like whole, like, and like the painted eyes and whatever, like that's just showing that like, no, she actually did kind of lose herself. She isn't leaving the canvas periodically like she should be to like maintain a healthy physical life outside of the canvas. Like, but all these people started throwing all this stuff on her. Like, if you go to Reddit, which is a hellscape anyway, so that's my fault for opening the app.
A lot of porn on Reddit though.
Yeah. But like all these people are just like throwing all these weird, like, yeah, she's controlling all these people. They're all afraid of her. They know that she can just do blah, 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 whenever she wants to. I'm like,
yeah, I've not seen that.
I didn't get any of that.
People.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, if you had my build, I'm so sorry, Maury. You've been interrupted like 7 times.
No.
I'm going to shut. Please, do not let me interrupt you. Please continue. Maury.
I hate this because Cam and I want to hear your thoughts. So I'll be expeditious. I literally just wanted to say one more thing about the ending for me, like a final thought for me, and that's that I really wish that the focal point of this game, the way that everything kind of like falls on, like the final point. I wish it wasn't that, oh, yeah, we got to get back to the writers or you have to keep running from your grief. I wish it was we have to face our grief or we have to keep running from it. I wish that Renoir, instead of being like, we have to get back out to fight the writers that we know nothing about, I wish it was that he wanted Eileen out of the painting so she could finally face the grief. I wish
that's what it was. I didn't get anything from the ending about him mentioning the writers.
But doesn't he want them out there to fight the writers? Isn't that why he wants them out?
That's what Clay is up to.
So he makes a comment about like how he's worried about Clay's safety with them being in the canvas for as long as they've been in. So there is a point where he does make a comment about that.
Okay,
that's
right. You're not wrong. Yeah.
I guess that's the thing is I wish that maybe that was more like focal or then is that like, yeah, it's either we keep grieving or it's either that we don't grieve or we try to grieve. But I wish that those were the two options more defined than like what we were presented with. But those are my final high level thoughts. What about you, Cayman? I cut you off.
No, you're totally fine. I was probably I think I was making a dumb joke. So I'm actually kind of glad you just cut me off. Because fuck knows it wasn't going to land. I'll give a high level. I know we're wrapping up soon, but I'll give a high level.
Let's wrap up.
I just briefly wanted to talk about just platinum or at least 100% perspective of the game. A couple of things I think the big thing here is someone like in Patrick's situation of like, is it worth going and playing every individual aspect? In this case, I would say you might not need to 100% it, but do at least 80%. Some of the best dungeons are completely optional. So like the relationship, whether it's skills, learning about how she SK saved her like when she was drowning and how she had a fucking child that died. Like all of this you never would have seen if you didn't like follow through her entire story.
Yeah.
The fight with Clea is one of the most insane one hard second place on difficulty scale, where the entire fight is dependent on the fact that you cannot do anything but parry. So you have to parry the entire fight or she'll just continue to re-heal over and over and over again. And then finally, when you have to meet Simon, who you never know about, he's mentioned in nothing but just being like, there was a man who was so fucking strong, he downed an Axon in a single blow. You get to fight him at the end. And I was telling the team off air that like this fight on easy was significantly harder than the Melania fight in Elden Ring.
Wow.
Like, I'm not kidding when I say that this fight literally made me rebuild an entire thing to try to. I had to like barely like half gimmick fight to try to even get a dent into him. And that took me almost 15 tries with that specific build. So like, holy fuck. But in perspective of the game, and the reason I made this comment early on was that this game is proof that game shouldn't cost $80. And that is a lot of the excuse I think we're seeing is people saying, well, the content. There were dungeons I was finding at level 99 that I completely missed because they were so neatly tucked away in a little corner of the map I never would have seen if I wasn't diligently trying to find everything. So you find these incredible dungeons with some of the most insane story bits, like finding out that Verso kills Julia is in an entirely optional hidden dungeon, and that little journal is like hidden, tucked away. So like these things are baked in. There is enough content here to feed you 70 hours. I put in just shy of 70 hours doing all of this. Like highly recommend, like I said, you don't need to kill Simon or be able to defeat Clea. But the truth is to get the full experience of this game, no way that you should play less than 80% of it. And most of the game, there's an Act 4, I think, that is seeing all the stuff you couldn't see in the lead up to the ending. If you're playing it right now and you've beat the game and you didn't do everything or go to see everything, go back, finish, go play everything else. There's a whole other side of the game that you haven't seen yet. And that side is fucking fantastic.
I'm just saying, if I could play as a cow, I'd pay $80 for this game. Jordan,
TikTok
final
disagrees,
thoughts.
buddy.
Yeah, again, this has been such an incredible game to experience. This has been a fantastic discussion with you all. Love hearing all the different viewpoints, especially about the endings, because again, like it's so nuanced, and I love like hearing everyone's reasoning for why. It's always so good. I do have to say one quick thing, like there's so many emotional beats in the game, so I want to just like highlight a couple of them because like obviously the gamage from the start was pretty like mind blowing, but like what the moment that really broke me was the end of Act 2 with Mael walking up the steps to give Gustav's journal back to his sister and the apprentices. I lost it. I was just crying on the couch, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, that always gets into that kind of thing of like just anticipating that kind of like interaction. And there was no words, just music. And I was like, why? But then a close second was the conversation that Cayman mentioned, like when you level up CL's relationship enough, like when you first meet Eskia, he calls her a terrible swimmer, and she's like, how does he know that I don't like water? And like she has a conversation with Gustav where he starts to kind of open up to her and be like, you know, whenever I was by myself, he doesn't finish the sentence, but he's like, I almost killed myself. When I was by myself, I thought that I was alone. And she's like, yeah, Lune didn't tell me outright, but I kind of filled in the blanks. And she's like, you know that I know that feeling better than anyone. I'm glad you're still here. And like CL and Verso kind of bond over their shared like previous. I can't remember if Verso actually mentioned an attempt or just like suicidal thoughts, but like learning that she tried to drown herself after she lost her husband. She didn't know she was pregnant, but Eskia heard her crying and like pushed her back to shore. She didn't even know it. Like, God, that was like the most heartbreaking like conversations. And like, that's what I'm talking about. Where like, none of that is something that you're going to go and like tattoo on your neck or your ass or wherever else. But like, it was just so powerful, so well written, so well acted from everybody involved that like I don't mind that I can't like, you know, hang a poster on my wall of these conversations, but they will stick with me for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think this conversation is definitely, it hasn't moved my score, but I am more appreciative of some of the game. I very much look forward to the sequel when we get to fight David Zaslav as the writers in this world, as a part of the Writers Guild. But I'm sorry, that was stupid.
I love
but to Cayman's point, I think I would love to play more of this game, but Sandfall, this is directly to you. I won't touch this game until you put fucking maps in your game. What a shit fucking horse shit fuckery experience not having maps in your fucking areas and to have all of the areas look fucking identical throughout. It's fucking horseshit. Fix it. But I very much liked this game, and I'm glad that we got to have this discussion. We will be back this Thursday for an episode of Drop In, Drop Out. I don't remember who here will be in that episode. Maybe none of you will be here.
Did Maury get final thoughts in? I'm sorry.
He started final thought.
Okay. I forgot.
Yeah, maybe
Final
fucking
thoughts worth
listen.
taking.
Thursday, we're going to be talking about Switch 2 one final time before it's launched. And then we're going to talk about it even more after it's launched. But we're going to talk about predicting the next several years of Switch 2 once it comes out, and also do a little bit of a retrospective on previous Nintendo launches and kind of comparing how those were to this one. So if you're watching this fucking years later, that's also up live now. But leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscribe. You can go to dropindropoutpod.com to join the Discord to catch up on all the things we're doing. But until then, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.